So today I am talking about optimizing the EHR. So what we try to do with this course is go over some of the new features that have come out since we last taught this course at the users conference, just in case there are new functionality that came out that you may not be using in your office yet. But I also did want to focus some on some of the really exciting new features that we have added to the EHR very quickly to help with this new situation that we all have found ourselves in with COVID-19 and having to do more things virtually with our patients. So we will jump in. So as Jan mentioned, we do have the live session chat if you want to post any of your questions there. We'll then be answering questions toward the end of the presentation. So the goals of this course, as I mentioned, PCC EHR is constantly changing. We're constantly doing updates, adding features that can help you optimize the EHR. So this course is going to focus on some of those. So the first one is the ability to now schedule visits as telemedicine visits in the EHR. So when you open up the appointment book, again, you can go from the file menu. You can also use the little icons that are down at the bottom of the EHR. And when you're scheduling the appointment itself, you will now have under the appointment notes section, a telemedicine checkbox that you can check. And you can also link in if you're using doxy.me or any of the other telemedicine vendors that allow you to virtually interact with your patients. You will be able to add that link as well. And as we'll see in just a moment, that link will also be visible to your patients through their portal account. Once we've scheduled that appointment, when we look on the schedule screen, we're going to see in the room number section of the schedule, the little video icon that tells us that this is a telemedicine visit. If we open up the visit itself, we also will see that same video icon, and we also will see if we have added in a patient link, we will see it there, or we have the ability to add the patient link there as well. So if we didn't necessarily know what that was when we were scheduling the appointment, we can always add it in once we're actually at the visit itself. And showing what the patient will see when they open up the patient portal, they will see that telemedicine visit. They will also see the link that you've linked so that they can click on it and connect to that visit with you. Next thing that we have is charge posting in the PCC EHR. This is the first of a number of phases that we are rolling out to move all of the billing functionality out from the practice management system into the EHR. So the first step for that is charge posting. So one of the changes that we made with this is when you as the provider or a nurse bills out a visit, you will see the ready to post status on the schedule screen. And it is a button that is clickable. So this is a permission-based experience. So you can choose who and who does not have access to charge posting in the EHR. So we click ready to post. The very first screen it opens up may look familiar. You also see it in the appointment book. It is the patient details screen so that you can, again, look at any insurance information if there's anything that needs to be updated. But you also will have on the left-hand side the post charges button where you actually get into the post charges screen itself. When we click into post charges, the very top section is where you will see all of the diagnoses and procedures. Now, when the provider or a nurse is billing a visit, they have the ability to go ahead and link procedures to diagnoses from there. They can either do it from there or it can be done here in the post charges. That has not changed. So it doesn't necessarily have to be done in the bill screen in the visit itself. If you do decide to do the linking from here, you will notice on the right-hand side, we have a few buttons. You have where you can link the procedure to all of the diagnoses on the visit, to none of the diagnoses, and you also have the select button. And when you click the select button, it will open up this screen where you will show you all of the diagnoses or it actually shows you a diagnosis and it lets you link whatever procedures you want to link to that diagnosis and then you would hit save. The middle section, we see the actual dollar amounts that are on these procedures. If you needed to change the number of units, if you needed to change what code is there, if you needed to add a modifier, for example, you could do that. You can also choose what insurance this is going to pin to, and it will also show you if there's anything personally that might be due, like a copay. You'll then have the claim information where you can update the billing provider if you need to. You can also add in any of the other fields that are already available on the practice management side. So if this was a visit after an accident, you're still able to put in that date and that it was for that particular reason that the patient was seen. At the very bottom is where you can post any time of service payments. If it wasn't done at the check-in process, if that payment came in later, you can always post it there as well. And it will also show you any balances that they may still have outstanding if you needed to follow up with the patient. Once you've filled in everything the way you need to, click save and post in the bottom right. And it will change the status on the schedule screen from ready to bill or ready to post to posted. Searching the visit history index. The visit history index, as we know, shows you all the previous encounters for your patient. Visits, phone notes, portal messages, order follow-ups, all of those will show. And there may be times where you're needing to find maybe a specific note that you wrote and you're not really sure where that lives. We already have some mechanisms to help find things easier from visits. For example, the flow sheets for particular types of orders that you're looking for. But this search filter allows you to search for a particular word that you may have typed in or string of words. So in the visit history index, you now have the search filter box and we can type what we want. I typed in sore throat. And when I clicked the search button, it listed down at the bottom any visits that had those words, that phrase as a part of it. And if I look in one of those visits, as we see here toward the top, we actually see that it highlighted that word. Now, just like with any other search feature that you may use anywhere else on your computer, you do have the back and forth errors that will move you between each instance that word was found. So if it was found multiple times in a visit, or it will also toggle you between any of the encounters that did contain that word or phrase. Copying notes to siblings. This one is not new, but I feel like it's always good to remind people that this is there, especially now. You may have more patients coming in, things like that. So as far as copying notes to siblings, this can be done on the medical summary screen, and you can use this particular functionality for any of the free text boxes that are on your medical summary screen, like reminders, social history, but it also works for the family medical history discrete component as well. There are a couple of options that you have. You can either go up to the edit menu, and one of the very bottom options in the edit is copy notes to siblings, or you can also right click on the exact component that you're wanting to copy. So in the edit menu, as I mentioned, it's down toward the bottom, copy note to siblings, or you can right click anywhere on whatever box you're wanting to copy and click the copy family medical history to siblings. That will open a screen where it will take you through each sibling that patient has and give you the same 4 options that are visible here in the middle of the screen. For the most part, you probably will use the append option, which will essentially add in whatever is coming from the initial patient to the patient that you're moving those notes to. Down here at the bottom, if they have multiple siblings, you will have a next button. It will take you to the next sibling. You choose one of the same 4 options. When you get to the end of the number of siblings that patient has, you'll click the save button and it will disperse those notes. Just to talk about the couple of other options, replace would be if that sibling already had something on their family medical history that you're wanting to replace with what the original sibling has. Custom would be if you have step siblings that maybe don't have the same parents or grandparents on both sides. Then you also have the do not copy option. So if it's a parent that's listed as a sibling or a sibling that was adopted, you can not copy those notes over. You now have the ability to order labs, referrals, whatever you're needing to order from phone notes and also portal messages. So previously, you had to actually create a visit encounter in order to be able to order something, but you now are able to do it from these other two places as well. One of the changes that we made in response to COVID-19 is you can now also bill from a phone note or a portal message as well. So you can get paid for the work that you're doing outside of an actual visit encounter. So to get started, you need to edit your phone note and portal message protocols. And those are found under the configuration menu, under protocols. And you actually go into the protocol builder. They are in your protocol list. It's phone note and portal message. You can edit those, add in whichever order components you want. You can make them anchors if you wanted to. And from there, you are all set to create your phone note or portal message and get started. So along with the change to be able to add in the order components, you now are able to choose a provider to link to a particular phone note or portal message. And mainly that's so that those orders, and then also especially now that billing can happen, tie to a particular provider. So the provider dropdown is at the very top. If it's just a phone note that you're just using for regular phone note purposes, you don't have to choose a provider at the top, that you certainly can. But especially if you're ordering or billing, you want to make sure you choose a name out of that dropdown. So in the phone note screen, again, you could put the ordering components wherever you would like. Most of the practices that I've worked with, I have seen them add them in at the very bottom, just so that they're not having to scroll past them if they're needing to create just a regular phone note. So as far as how to order them, it works exactly the same way as it does in a visit. Any tasks that are created from those orders will still show in the visit task, so not the messaging. Phone note tasks themselves show in the messaging queue, but any orders that are done from a phone note or portal message will show in visit tasks with the rest of order tasks that are created from visits as well. So if we look in the portal message, it's essentially the same thing. They will be wherever in the ribbon you added them in. We've made some adjustments to Pocket PCC to allow charting to be a little bit more robust from Pocket PCC itself. So the first thing I'm actually going to talk about is not necessarily on the charting side, but we now have in the EHR, in the patient finder dropdown, where you can actually choose from a list of the last 10 patients that you worked with. So that if you did get interrupted and need to go back, it can help jog your memory or just more easily take you to that patient you were just working with. So we have now added that same functionality into the patient portal, or excuse me, Pocket PCC as well. So when you click on the menu in the top left corner of Pocket PCC, you would click to find patient, just like you normally would if you're wanting to search for a patient. Well, once you get here, you still have your patient search box, but you also will have your recent patients list. So again, just an easy way to get back to where you were. Now, as far as charting goes, we have had for a number of months now the ability to chart vitals in Pocket PCC. So you would essentially go into the visit in Pocket PCC, edit it, enter the vitals. Those vitals will move over to the visit in the EHR as well. But you now also have the ability to chart in any of the generic components. So generic components would be your generic check, generic radio, your generic text edit. So there aren't any other specialized components besides the vitals that you're able to chart in, but you are at least able to chart in the generic components. So if we log into Pocket PCC, we go into a patient, we click on the little patient icon in the top right, choose the visit history. Once you have chosen a visit, you will then click on the pencil to edit, just like you would to be able to add vitals to that visit. And it will then open up whatever generic components are part of the protocol that's being used. So in this case, it's a well visit. So I have the concerns box. I can type the informant relationship. I can also type in the physical exam, and you do still have the same radio component functionality where you can make all normal. It will pull your auto notes. So all of that you have when you're charting in the EHR will be available in Pocket PCC as well. And if we look, we finish charting our visit and we go and look in the EHR, just like with the vitals, you will also see those notes in the EHR as well. Patient portal, talk about a couple of new things that are here. One of the components that has been on the demographic screen, and you can also move it to other places in the EHR as well, is the portal users component. And that gives you an easy way, if you're checking in a patient, it's on the patient details when you're scheduling a visit, that you can see if that patient actually has any portal users. And if not, go ahead and sign them up. Especially now, the portal is definitely a great tool for you to not only be able to use with your families, but them to also use to communicate with you as well. So for the portal users component, when you are in demographics or the check-in screen or the patient details, you can review if there are any portal users. If there are, you can manage those portal users. So if they need to, they had a new baby and you're needing to add in a new patient for them, or edit anything else, you can also add a new portal user. So especially if they don't have any, you would click the Add Portal User button. You would then create that portal user, email address, first name, last name. If you are going from a patient's chart, when you add that user, it will automatically add the patient whose chart is open to that portal account. You then have the Add Siblings button, so you can add any additional patients that are part of that family. From here, it's just like your normal workflow for adding in a portal user. You have the age of privacy, which you can always override here. You can set to link to a billing account so that they can see balances. All of that, it just is an easier way for you to look at that information and make any changes if you need to. You can also attach documents to portal messages that you're creating from within the EHR. If you go into a patient's chart, you have either through the edit menu or down by the Add Phone Note button is now an Add Portal Message button. And as you are creating that portal message or replying to one that the patient may have sent you, you now have an Add Attachment button. So essentially for this button to work, the document would already have to be attached to the patient's chart as a document. Essentially, when you click on Add Attachment, it is going to open up the Documents tab for that patient. You can choose any documents that have already been attached. So if you are wanting to attach something that has not yet been scanned in and attached to the patient's chart, you would have to do that first. And here we can just see what it looks like once that document has been attached. If we look in the portal, they will see the attachment as well. With the portal and with messaging, there's always you get the portal message, I need a refill on my prescription, and you have no idea what pharmacy they wanted to go to, what medication they're talking about. So you now have the ability to create portal message templates. So if you go under the configuration menu and patient portal, there is now a second tab at the top of messaging templates. You click there. We do start you out with 3 templates already: the appointment request, medication refill request, and referral request. And so if we edit one of these that already exists, you can see all of the different components. It's kind of like building a protocol, except the components look a little bit different because they maybe do different things. So for example, for the appointment request, if someone in the portal chooses this template, they actually have a drop-down that will list all of your active providers, so they can choose what provider they would like an appointment. They can select an appointment location if you're a multi-location office. And then there's also input boxes where they can put why they're needing to come in, what their preferred date. So they're not able to actually schedule their own appointments. This is just to reach out to you and say, hey, we'd like an appointment. Just gives a little bit more structure to that message so that you don't have the very generic with no details message coming in. But the other thing portal message templates allow you to do is right now, if you receive a portal message, they're unassigned when they come into the EHR, and someone actually has to go to the messaging queue, triage those messages that are coming in, and send them to someone in particular. So if we notice here at the top, you can also set that this particular type of portal message that uses this template should be assigned to a particular user, whether that's an actual person or you have more generic users that you use for tasking. You can actually set that here. So the patients or parents they still do not have the ability to assign a message to a particular person, but you at your office can do it while you're building your templates. So as I mentioned, we do start you out with the 3 messaging templates. You also have an add button at the bottom where you can add any additional. And we do have documentation on learn.pcc.com that tells you what all of the different components are, what they do, so that you can choose how you would want to build out your messaging template. So these I don't necessarily have screenshots for. I was just going to talk through them real quick. Some of the upcoming features that we have, which you probably are going to have already heard about some of them possibly, or you may be hearing about them in the next few sessions. Just to give a little sneak peek, we are adding a chat feature within the EHR. So right now, some of you may be using our Spark functionality that we have. But the issue with that is if you're not in the office and you're not on your workstation, you aren't always able to use it if you're using Secure Connect, since you're logging directly into the server. So this allows you to not only have it so that you can talk about more sensitive patient information and it is contained within the EHR itself, it's also easier to get to. So that chat window is going to be visible no matter where you are. So if you're in a chart, you're not having to leave the EHR to look at your message. You can just kind of pull it up as you're able to. One of the other changes that is coming up is to attach documents to a future visit. So really the only way right now to attach a document to a future visit is to actually open up that chart, open up the visit so that it assigns a protocol and essentially makes it an appointment. But the issue with that is if that patient winds up not coming in, you now have a blank appointment that's stuck in your visit history that you're now having to go and delete. So what this will change is if you go into import documents, even if you have not opened up that visit and assigned a protocol yet, that future appointment will show so that you can go ahead and start attaching documents to it. Currently, when you sign parents or patients up for the patient portal, you have to use an email address. So if you send them a message, if they have any documents waiting, that's sent to their email. Not a lot of people necessarily look at their email all that often. So we will be adding the ability to sign people up for the patient portal using their phone number. And then any communication that happens will go to that phone number instead of their email address. They could still choose to receive those notifications via email, but they also can now use their phone as well. And then the one that I personally am really excited about is we will now have a text expander in the EHR. I believe it's in the next couple of weeks that this release will be coming out. And again, we have practices that are using text expanders. The issue is those are loaded onto your workstations in your office. So if you are charting from home, like a lot of us are now, and you're using Secure Connect, you have not been able to use your text expander because, again, you're logging into the server and you're not on your actual workstation. So we will have the ability to set up those text expander phrases within the EHR. Individual users will be able to set them up for themselves, or You can set up practice-wide defaults as well, kind of like you can with auto notes. And it essentially works the same way as the text expander. You choose what your will phrase is going to be that you'll type, and then you will set up what that will phrase is going to actually chart for you in your visit. And again, it will be in the EHR, so no matter where you are, no matter how you're logged in to the EHR, it will still work. So very exciting. So it is important to stay up to date. And obviously I know everyone has a lot going on right now. Certainly a lot of the new functionality that we've been putting out has been very relevant to what's happening right now to make it easier for people to be getting paid for telemedicine visits and things like that. But we do have, coming up later this year is going to be some of our releases like they used to be, where we'll have some additional functionality, very exciting functionality that we've been really wanting to get to. So it is important to pick 1 or 2 people in your office who can. We always do web labs before we put out a new release. So to attend the web lab, and it can then bring that information back to the office so that you make sure that you're taking full advantage of the really exciting new features that we'll have coming out for the rest of this year. So kind of as I mentioned, you could do this through a super trainer, someone that would go to the web lab and then it comes back and shows others in the practice how to do that. What I would tend to recommend is to have at least one person who is attending those web labs be someone who is more of an admin user, who would have the ability to edit protocols or edit other configuration pieces that others in the office may not have access to if there are things that do need to be set up in order to use them. We always have our online documentation, learn.pcc.com. So you can find everything that I talked about here today, how to do it, how to set it up. You also always have PCC support, PCC community if you want to talk with your peers about it, and you also have your client advocate as well. So as far as any questions that anyone has, again, if you post those in the live session channel, and then Jan can help kind of facilitate those to me so that I can answer them.
Yeah, we do. We have a couple of, forgetting which computer I'm using. We have a couple of ideas that have been floated around. A couple of PCCers have jumped in with some good suggestions. It started generally with ideas about phone notes, that if you're jumping into a phone note as a clinician to view a phone note, that you end up becoming the owner or the assigned provider of that phone note. And that the discussion all turned around to ways to avoid that if you're just looking and you don't intend to take any action on the note. So we've had a couple of good back and forths. And there we go. Okay, I knew the question was in here somewhere. So the first provider to open a portal or a phone note. So I was misstating that or understating it. Portal and phone note, this appears to be. So it's understood that there is a way around it. So your coworkers added a workaround there. Is there other advice that you have, or another approach to a clinician or provider viewing a portal or a phone note and not saving themselves as the owner or suddenly assigned to that individual?
I'm not sure what's been talked about in the chat, but I don't know that I have anything additional to add.
Okay. The next question was also answered about where to see pharmacy in Pocket PCC, and that's currently unavailable. So we covered that bit. There is, let's see, going through this next. Will you be able to globally assign documents to protocols? For example, can you attach the proper VIS sheet to the visits where they get those specific vaccines?
Okay. Yeah, so at this point, we don't really have that. Really the closest that you could get to that would be in the forms component of the protocol. You can build in certain forms to be automatically built into the protocol. However, if you start building a lot of things like every VIS sheet, your list of forms is going to be very cumbersome to look through. So as far as things like the VIS, I would say we don't really have a good workflow for that currently.
Okay. The next question is, are the text expander phrases user specific, or can you share them with others?
So you can set them up just for you, and other users can set up their own. You also can set up practice-wide text phrases as well.
Awesome. There is, let's see, I'm filtering through some back and forth and some answers. I'm not positive. I'm gonna read this one response just because I can't immediately identify that there's an answer to it. Yeah, specifically, if I want one of my associates. Oh, this looks like an answer. This was an answer to the portal and phone back and forth. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Lauren. This was really awesome. So thank you all so much for being here, and thank you, Lauren. I was alerted that there is another question. Thank you to the little mouse in my ear. Can you elaborate on how to make certain documents part of a protocol? Are those documents then available in Portal? So it's a two-part question. The first part, can you elaborate on how to make certain documents part of a protocol?
Sure. So you now have the ability to print forms out of the EHR. Previously, you had to go into the practice management system. So we created the forms component. Initially, it was just added to the medical summary screen, but you have the ability to add the forms component to all of your protocols as well. And so essentially, as far as adding particular forms or handouts to be part of particular protocols, you would go into configuration, protocols, protocol builder. You would edit the protocol, you would edit the forms component and click the add items, just like you would if you're wanting to add in immunizations or labs to be there by default. It's the same process for the forms. You then build in whatever forms you want to be readily available. And essentially what that will do is list them in the protocol with a generate button. When you click generate, if there are any additional information you need to fill in, that screen will pop up as normal. You fill that in. It will then bring the form up on your screen. And you have a couple of options. You can print the form, and you also have the ability to save it as a document. So on the right-hand side, when you generate that form, will be the tags section, like you have in import documents when you are assigning a task to a patient's chart. It will already have some information filled in. It will fill in the date of the visit that you're seeing. It will automatically put that handout to the forms document category. You can obviously adjust any of that you want to. And then when you click the save, it will send it over to the portal as well.
Yeah, so that answers the second part of the question: is, are those documents then available in Portal? Mm-hmm. So you got that twofer with one answer. I don't see anything else waiting. So I think, and I don't even see anybody typing this time. So I think we're probably safe to end the session and invite folks to continue the conversation and share more questions directly in UC chat. And there was a thank you for your answer just added. So please do continue adding things to the UC chat. We pay close attention to them, and we'll get answers to you just as quickly as possible. And you know that if you have that question, someone else probably does too. I hope everybody has a great holiday weekend, and thank you again for being here with us. So long.